What's going on, everybody? This is episode number 19 of the Ear to the Canvas podcast. This is your host, Ryan Truland. And again, I am a MMA/UFC writer for backsportspage.com. That's BACK sportspage.com. I highly recommend checking out that site. We have NBA, NFL, NHL, college sports, tennis, of course, UFC. Even WWE, we got it all over there at Bat Sports Page, so go check that out. Follow me on all social media platforms. Just search Ryan Truland. You will find me. On Facebook, it's Ryan L. Truland. So this is got a good episode today. We're going to be talking about, breaking down, and recapping the Robert Whittaker and Darren Till fight from this past weekend. It was a beautiful fight to watch, honestly. A striking fan's dream fight. Super technical, a chess match. We're going to get into it. Great fight. Big things ahead for really both fighters, honestly. They both, like Darren Till said, nobody really lost this fight. It was two of the top elite guys in the 185-pound division. And it was a very close fight. Gonna get into that. Also gonna get into what I think the reason is why we're seeing all these impressive debuts from these UFC newcomers. A ton of guys. It seems every card we're having one or two, even three guys who are making their debut and looking really impressive. And again, this weekend we had it. I think I might know the reason why. And then going to get into one of the biggest stars in the sport. Fight is announced. So stay tuned for that. Before we get into the Whittaker Till, though, I want to break some news about the podcast. I will be having UFC fighter Mike Rodriguez on the show this Thursday. So peep that. That'll be out Thursday. He has a fight coming up on August 22nd in Vegas. Going to talk about that. Going to talk about he loves gaming. I love gaming. I'm sure it's going to be a fun interview, so stay tuned for that. So, Robert Whittaker and Darren Till. This coming into it, it was just as much hype for me as the Dustin Poirier-Dan Hooker fight. And this one also lived up to the hype. It's awesome. How often does a fight play out the way you think it's going to play out? Probably not often, but this fight really did. Coming into it, I knew that Robert Whittaker was the more volume striker. He likes to, at the end of the fight, he usually has the higher output, and that's the case this past Saturday against Till. And Till is one of those guys who uses a ton of feints and picks and chooses his spots to land those power shots. It's almost always the left hand, and he did that again on Saturday. Also added a couple more things into it. We're going to go round by round real quick because it was just such a close fight. Round one, Darren Till dropped Robert Whittaker with that massive elbow. Rob was coming in, and Till just met him with that elbow, and it dropped him. That elbow, God, if I got caught with that elbow, I'd be out of work for a month, and I work from home. And Rob got back up, got his whereabouts, and stayed in it, and came back strong in the second round. But the first round, that was the big elbow from Till. Till was using a ton of feints, as he always does, super bouncy. And he was countering really well, especially in that first round early on. He was letting Rob come in, and he was just countering, and he was landing. 10-9 Darren Till after round one for sure. Now, round two was probably the most important round of the fight. Early on, I think it was in the first minute of that round, was when Rob landed that kick to Darren Till's knee, and it really messed up Darren's knee. We'll be talking about the later rounds in just a second, and it really did affect him in this fight. It's going to affect a guy like Till even more than just your average fighter or a guy who likes to fight in a different style, because Till is so bouncy, especially on that lead leg. And when that thing got compromised, it was noticeable, especially rewatching the fight. Go back and rewatch it and you'll see. And then Rob landed a huge overhand right that dropped Darren. So each guy had a knockdown after the second round. Till knocked Rob down the first. Rob rebounded and knocked Till down in the second. And then Rob was on top of Till, landed some nasty ground and pound. Till, unfortunately, still does not offer much on the ground. He really doesn't. He did show, however, very good takedown defense in this fight, and an ability to get back up after those takedowns. The reason why he really wasn't able to get back up for a while in that second round, once Rob was on top of him, was because, one, he was stunned after getting knocked down. Two, Rob was landing some nasty elbows, some ground and pound, and the explosions that Till was trying to, the hip escapes, they weren't really working. So yeah, he doesn't offer a ton off his back. He's not looking for any offense off his back ever. He's just looking to survive, hold you there, and try to work his way back up. And he did. He did, but that was an easy 10-9 round for Robert Whittaker. So it was 19-19 after two, dead even, each guy with a knockdown. We go into the third. Now Darren Till looks noticeably less bouncy. Go back and rewatch the fight. Third, fourth, and fifth rounds, you can see he's not bouncing as much. He's standing there stationary more, eating some leg kicks, some calf kicks. And in the third round was super, super close. Super close. I think Whittaker just edged him out. He did in terms of numbers anyway. So I think it was 2-1 Whittaker after three. We go into the championship rounds where Robert Whittaker is more experienced in those situations compared to Till. Till, honestly, in my opinion, won the fourth round, though. I rewatched the fight just a little bit ago. I think he won the fourth round. He stuffed all the takedowns, and he landed the more powerful strikes. So I had a 2-2 after four, going into the fifth. But the fifth round, Till was having success. He got a big pep talk from his cornerman, his coach. And I thought it was a great corner job by his corner. He came out looking sharp in the fifth, but Rob outlanded him, and then he started getting those takedowns. Till, though, got right back up after getting taken down. He did not let Rob really secure those takedowns. But in the end, Rob won that fifth round to edge out Till 3-2. In the eyes of the judges, in the eyes of me, if I was judging, I would have given it 3-2 in favor of Robert Whittaker. There was no crime there in terms of their decision. But again, super close fight. I think Till has two new weapons in his arsenal. Even he would tell you that his left hand is far and away his best weapon. But his new weapons, that elbow, he was using that very effectively in this fight. He broke Rob open, really busted him open in that fifth round with an elbow to the side of the head that cut Rob. And he also has that head kick that he was throwing a lot in this fight, that I think if he can get that thing a little sharper, telegraph it a little less, I think that could be a huge weapon for him going forward. And again, the takedown defense looks solid. Till, I think, is improving for sure. That left hand was even more powerful. And again, he added a couple more things to his arsenal. Alright, let me just take a quick break to tell you guys about our sponsor, Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's an app available to download on your computer, iPhone, or Android, and it's the easiest way to make a podcast. For starters, it's free. Everything's free on Anchor, and it gives you all kinds of tools that allow you to record and edit and create your very own podcast right from your computer or phone. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, man, how do I get my podcast out to the people? Well, Anchor even distributes your podcast on all the biggest platforms such as Spotify and Apple Music. You can even profit from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Anchor is everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Go download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. So now you got to look ahead to what is next for both of these middleweight contenders. I do not think Robert Whittaker gets a title shot right away, especially if Israel ends up beating Paulo Costa in their fight next month, or rather in September. I actually expect Rob to probably have a fight announced before that fight even takes place. I do. And I think there's two possibilities for him. The first is Jared Cannoneer. Now, Cannoneer is coming off of an injury that he's healing from. I think he's almost 100% healthy now. I could see them matching up, and the winner gets a title shot. 100%. Cannoneer has been titled as a dark horse at 185. Even Adesanya has called him that. And I think a win over Whittaker obviously gets him that chance. Now, if that doesn't happen, I think Jack Hermansson is another possibility as a title eliminator fight pretty much at 185. Whittaker versus Hermansson makes a lot of sense. Hermansson coming off that quick, effortless really, barely broke a sweat, submission victory over Kelvin Gastelum. I think a Whittaker-Hermansson fight also made sense. Now, the loser, Darren Till. I think the best case scenario for Till is if Edmund Shabazian beats Derek Brunson this coming Saturday. I think a great, perfect stepping stone for Shabazian from Brunson, if he does defeat him, would be Darren Till. And then if he ends up beating Brunson, then Till, you got to look at that undefeated kid as a problem at 185. He is already, and a true title contender. So I think Till versus Shabazian would be a sick fight. If Shabazian defeats the veteran Derek Brunson this Saturday. Not an easy task. Even Brunson, if he does beat Edmund Shabazian, I think that could be a matchup for Darren Till. I don't love that, though. I would rather see Edmund. Till, I don't think Brunson's a great matchup for Till just because he's the wrestler. But Till, with his improved takedown defense, I think could hold his own and probably finish Derek Brunson. Jack Hermansson, though, is another possibility for Darren Till. If Rob does end up fighting Jared Cannoneer, Hermansson would be left without an opponent, and I think Till would make a lot of sense. So fun possibilities at 185. It is a log jam division. I said that in my last episode. And this fight this past Saturday just amplified that notion. It really did. 185 is a very fun division. Can't wait for the title fight in September. That's going to be huge. Moving on to the debuts. Tom Aspinall. I don't know how many people watched his fight this past weekend, but he made quick work of his opponent in his UFC debut, and he just is added to the list of these impressive performances from the UFC newcomers. I mean, you had Modestas Bukauskas a couple weeks ago. Of course, Khamzat, who fought twice in 10 days. His first performance was dominant. Even Jai Herbert in defeat against the veteran Francisco Trinaldo, he was having a ton of success. And I really think it's because of no audience. I think the lack of audience is incredibly beneficial for these UFC newcomers. They're fighting on the biggest of stages in mixed martial arts for the first time. It's obviously nerve-wracking. And I think the lack of crowd does a couple things. First, they can hear their corner perfectly. They can get directions from their coaches while the fight's ongoing, not just in between rounds. I think there's less nerves and less pressure on them with no crowd there. Usually they would have, especially in their UFC debut, they're inviting a ton of people that they know, cheering them on. His opponent's going to have people there cheering him on. A packed house usually. Without that, it relieves a lot of pressure on these new guys. And I think it makes the fight feel less important. Even though it's not, it's still just as important as if there were fans. But I think it makes it feel less important. It makes it feel more like something that they've just done for their whole lives. Just a sparring session almost. An amplified, glorified sparring session. So I think that really has helped the UFC newcomers. Since the pandemic, no audience. UFC has been adding a lot of new fighters, new blood, because they've had to search for guys with everything that's been going on, the circumstances. And they have largely stepped up to the challenge and performed. And really have made names for themselves. I mean, Chimaev especially. Chimaev is, my God, dominant. I think he got hit twice in his first 2 fights. He took 2 strikes. It was something absurd. Absolutely absurd. And Tom Aspinall just added to that with his finish. Really, I think keep an eye on these UFC debuts in the coming weeks. See if this trend continues. Because I really do think the no audience is the big reason why they're having all this success. October 24th, we have Khabib versus Justin Gaethje. It's happening. There's not a venue yet or a location. We don't know. No specifics have really been announced yet. But we know that Khabib is fighting Justin Gaethje on October 24th. And Dana White said something very interesting. He said that if Khabib wins, which is obviously a tall task against a guy like Gaethje, I think it's the toughest opponent that Khabib's ever faced. If he does defeat Gaethje, though, he'll be 29-0. Now, Khabib, for years now, has said that his goal is 30-0 and to hang it up. He doesn't want to be one of these guys who fights until he's 40. He said that for years now. And I believe him. He hasn't given me any reason not to believe him. So I think, and Dana White said, he's going to let Khabib choose his 30th opponent. Choose his last opponent. To ride off into the sunset 30-0. Could that opponent be George St. Pierre? I think it really could. Khabib has expressed interest in that fight for a couple years now. GSP has turned down any rumors of coming back. But I think the Khabib fight really interests GSP. I do. I don't think the Usman fight interests him really. I think Khabib would be the only guy that would get GSP's attention. And if Khabib beats Gaethje and wants GSP as his 30th fight, I think the UFC can make that happen. I really do. I do think that will be his last fight. I think 30-0 would be his last fight. He will not, I don't think he will fight Conor McGregor again. I do not think he will. He has, if you watch some of his interviews, he just doesn't see a reason to fight Conor again. He made him tap. He's satisfied with that. He said that he would rather have made him tap like he did than even knock him out. Because if he knocked him out, people would call it luck or something. He made him tap. And I think he closed the book on McGregor. I don't think he wants any part of McGregor again. Just because he doesn't see a reason to fight him again. So, very interesting stuff. We had Whittaker and Till putting on a beautiful, beautiful performance. Both guys really did. That injury to Till really affected the fight, though. Don't underestimate that injury. A guy like Till especially, the way he fights, an injury to that lead leg, that knee, is really going to affect him, and it did. 100%. No audience is the central reason why these UFC newcomers are just racking up wins. It's crazy. There is a trend going on right now in the UFC, and it is the success of these UFC debuts, these young guys. There's a trend going on. I pay attention to it. As these new fight cards come up week in and week out, pay attention to the UFC debuts and keep an eye on how they do, because I bet they do pretty well. That's how the trend has been going. We'll see if it continues. Khabib and Justin Gaiji, October 24th is going down. That is 3 pay-per-view fights away. We have DC and Stipe 3 coming up next month. Then we got Izzy and Paulo Costa in September. And then Khabib, Gaethje in October. All right, so episode 20 will be coming out Thursday. That'll be an interview with UFC fighter Mike Rodriguez. Please tune in for that. That's going to be a fun one. As for me, again, please check out Bat Sports page. I just had an article about Herb Dean and how he was defending himself on Instagram. I hope that referees continue to share their perspectives on why they made a certain call or whatever goes on with their fights. I hope that they continue to share why they did this, why they did that, like Herb Dean has started to do. I think that's a very good thing. Be transparent. As long as they tell the truth and are upfront about it and admit to their mistakes, because referees obviously make mistakes. As long as they admit to it, I think sharing their perspectives will be really beneficial for everybody. So check that article out on Bat Sports page. That's BACK sportspage.com. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of the week. Again, I will be back Thursday with Mike Rodriguez. Peep that. Follow me on social media. I'll see you Thursday.